There's a small book of the Bible in the New Testament called the book of James. It was a letter written by the half-brother of Jesus. It was the first book of the New Testament that was written after the resurrection of Jesus. And James, the half-brother of Jesus, now think about that. That took some convincing. Your big brother says he's God. So that's the journey that James had to go on. And James says this. He says, draw near to God, and God will draw near to you. Draw near to God, and God will draw near to you. So would you write this down? Because this is kind of the theme for the morning. You can write this, just find along the margin. I know I put too many verses in there. You don't have any space to write in. I get it. Just find a place to write this down. You are as close to God as you want to be. The invitation is to enter into a relationship with God, and He invites you in, and He says, you can be as close to me as you want to be. Draw near to God. That's our part. And He says, I will draw near to you. When people sometimes say in the midst of difficult, where is God? He's saying, I've never missed, I'm with you. Like the song, I love the new song. That was really good. We did it much better than they did in Washington, D.C., by the way. Hello, Mary. Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. The most amazing truth, the most wonderful news, the greatest news ever, the greatest hope for your life is that God, the Creator, wants to have a relationship with you. God created us to have a relationship with Him. He wants us to know Him. He wants us to walk with Him. He wants us to enjoy Him. How many here are followers of Jesus and you actually enjoy following Jesus? God wants to have a relationship with each one of us. We were made to be friends with God. That's why He made us, to be friends. God is love. He wants a relationship with us. He made you, Tony. He made you, Raymond. He made you, Shane. He made you, Walt. Some of you, it was a little tougher in the journey, but He made each one of you to love you and to have not just a squishy, good, but to have a friendship with you that you can journey together in life. That's amazing. But there is a problem. How many ever have asked the question, how come there's so much evil in the world today? How come if God is so good that there's so much bad? The simple answer? What's the simple answer? My selfishness, your selfishness, combined across the planet makes for big problems. The biggest issue is my sin, my selfishness. Sin means simply that I'm missing the mark, that I'm not living how God created me to live, the way He wants me to live. Sin is the problem. Last week I talked about marriage. It's good to have all the couples back that were on the marriage retreat last week, and I figure you're going to help all the rest of us. So your marriages must be rock solid this week, at least for another week or two. Am I right? I just want to tell you, I can't commend you enough for getting away and coming together with other folks around Jesus, coming together to strengthen the greatest relationship on the earth that you could have, and that is with your husband or your wife. I almost said spouse. Don't go there. Husband or wife. Marriage reflects, as I said last week, did I do this? Which one do I do here, Deanna? Anyway, she's my coach. Sunday afternoons I get debriefed, so I'm going, I think I did something wrong there. But anyway, here we go. God took the initiative, just like, by the way, in marriage, the man is responsible to take the initiative. That's just the way God designed it. And He did that because the man is a picture of God's initiative toward us. So though God wanted a relationship with us, He created us, then we broke the relationship. God took the initiative, and he became a man. His name is Jesus. He walked the planet 2,000 years ago, and the reason God became one of us is so that he could rebuild the relationship, restore the relationship we're meant to have with him. He could be the bridge. Jesus is the bridge over troubled water. Thank you, Simon and Garfunkel. Some of you are going, Simon and who? Who and what? Who is that? They were way back there, like 60s and 70s, so some of you don't even, that's okay. It's kind of like, never mind. It says in 1 Timothy 2:5, Jesus Christ is the bridge between God and man. If I were to summarize the Bible in one word, if I were to summarize what it means to be together in the house like we are today, if I were to summarize why we gather together, if I were to summarize what God's intention is, there would be one word. The word is relationship. Relationship is more important than relationships are more important than things. Relationships are more important than my car. Relationships are more, that's for sure. Relationships are more important than my position. Relationships are more important than all the money on the planet. Pause. Yeah. I've seen more families get upset with each other over who gets the inheritance and how much they got. I just got to tell you, in the long run, doesn't matter. So, relationships are more important than money. Relationships are the most important thing because God is God and he created us to be in relationship with him and with each other. One word, relationship. One day, a wise guy came to Jesus and said, "What's the greatest commandment?" And Jesus said, "To love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind and strength. And the second is like it, to love one another, to love your neighbor as you love yourself." So just turn to the person next to you and say, "I really love me." Go ahead. That felt awkward. Love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? Life is essentially about relationships. In Hosea 6:6 in the Living Bible, I love this. Let me back up just a minute. Here's what Jesus said when he was with his followers, and it's the same for us today. He said in John chapter 15, he says, you're not my servants any longer. I call you my friends. You're my friends. And it says in Exodus 34, God is passionate about his relationship with you. Actually, it really says God is jealous. He loves you, and he doesn't want you having any other issues or any other relationships that takes you away from him. He's jealous for his relationship with you personally. So, I love this verse, Hosea 6:6. I don't want your sacrifices. I want your love. That's a good verse right there just for husbands and dads. Your kids don't want your sacrifices, they want your love. I don't want your offerings, I want you to know me. So write this down, it's not on the notes. But what is the most important thing that you can know? I'm giving you gold. What is the most important thing that you can know today? Know that God created you to love you. The most important thing you can know is that God created you to love you. So, that being said, what's the most important thing that you can do? Somebody said it. We love God back. We don't love God first. We love him because he first loved us. And God created you to love you. Now, for some of you, you don't give a rip about that right now. But there will be a day when you'll be glad there's somebody that loves you. God created you to love you. That's the most important thing to know. And by the way, it's not a squishy, syrupy, sentimental. I mean, it's a man's tough, I'm hanging in there. God created you to love you. And the most important thing you and I can do is to love God back. Now, that's what I'm going to talk about for this morning. That's what we're working on. It says in Acts 17, this whole idea, we're talking about relationships, starting from scratch. I love this in the Message. It says, God made the entire human race and made the earth hospitable. It means he made the earth to live in, to live on, with plenty of time and space for living. Why? So we could seek after God and not just grope around in the dark, but actually find him. Now, I'm going to do something different this morning. I don't think I've ever done quite like this, but I think you'll enjoy it. About 3 weeks ago, by your help, Deanna and I got to go to the National Prayer Breakfast. It was a Thursday morning, first Thursday in February, and there were several thousand people there, and it was President of the United States was there. It was because it's an event to gather together in the name of Jesus and pray for our country and pray for the president. So we got the privilege of being there, and we got to hear this story by Mark Burnett and Roma Downey. Some of you will know them when you hear their names or when you see their faces. But I'm going to take the risk this morning because they shared their faith story at the prayer breakfast. And it's so well done. They're going to share with you about their friendship with God and how God doesn't want you to work for him. He wants you to work with him. And he wants to work with you. He wants to partner with you to live life to the fullest. So I thought you'd enjoy this. If you bear with me and watch the screen, we'll see if we can do this. But this is Mark Burnett and Roma Downey at the National Prayer Breakfast just 3 weeks ago. President Obama and his wife to his right. To their left is Ryan and Pelosi representing the House. Let's see if we can watch this.
10 years, I had the privilege of playing the angel Monica on television opposite the great Della Reese. And we were undercover angels. Thank you. We were undercover angels who showed up at a crossroads in people's lives, often when they had hit the bottom. And in their brokenness, they had reached out to God for help. And every week, I got to deliver a message of God's love on national television to millions of people. And as a believer myself, this was such an honor to share with the audience that there is a God, that he loves us, and that he wants to be part of our lives. And before we filmed these angel revelation scenes each week, we would pray a very simple prayer. Less of me, God, more of you. Less of me, more of you. And we prayed because we hoped we would be used to touch people's hearts and to open their lives to God. And thankfully, that happened thousands of times. Both Mark and I have been so blessed with our careers here in the United States. And we are both so fortunate and incredibly grateful.
Yes, we are really fortunate and we're very grateful. But our faith has in fact led us to almost entirely build our TV careers and film careers on family-friendly franchises. I mean, shows like, as was mentioned. Like The Voice, Apprentice, Shark Tank, Survivor. Often every week, 4 nights out of 7, we have the #1 show in America. It's a lot of leverage, which is what matters in Hollywood. We took that leverage and we told Hollywood we wanted to make a brand new series called The Bible. Yes, The Bible on primetime American TV. Of course, our friends told us we're going to destroy our great careers because mixing entertainment and religion was going to make people really angry. But worst of all, they said we were idiots because nobody is going to watch the Bible on primetime TV. They know the story and they can get that in church. Well, as the Americans in this room know, the Bible became the most talked about television show in America, the #1 series a year, and 100 million of you watching. And here's what's really great. So the Bible also was shown in Canada, but they showed it up against the first game from the National Hockey League. But head to head, the Bible beat hockey. I guess we do know now up in Canada, we can officially say that hockey is not God.
At that time, the Bible was also up against a show called The Walking Dead, and we won. And my favorite headline ran on CNN, "God beats zombies." But far more important than the ratings were the stories of families sitting together in their living rooms watching the Bible. The stories of how God's love for us unfolded through the ages moved them and engaged them. Because faith was and is alive and well in America. And the series helped to ignite a much larger conversation about God and faith in this country. And we were also humbled that people were inspired to see us, a Hollywood couple of producers, daring to speak out about our love of Jesus, daring to talk about our faith in God and our sincere belief in the power of prayer. I can honestly say that I have never made a decision in my life, big or small, that I didn't pray about first. The Bible series began with a prayer that started as a whisper in our hearts. Our dear friend Rick Warren had said to us once, "The most dangerous prayer you can pray is, 'Lord, use me,' because then you have to be ready that he might just do so." All we did was ask him to use us.
And use us, he did, trust me. Yeah, it was a TV show, but we're also still telling the story of the most sacred book of all time, the Bible. And we knew we had to get it right. There's a really important, huge responsibility on our shoulders. So first thing we did was sign up 40 scholars and advisors. By the way, many of you are in this room right now. You know who you are, and you backed us from the very beginning and stood shoulder to shoulder with us, and we thank you so much, all of you in this room who backed us. You know, it was difficult to bridge all the theological gaps between the denominations, but we prayed our way through the process and managed to create a series that brought people together and glorified God. I think it's fair to say we have become Hollywood's noisiest Christians. You know, at least 90 million Americans attend church each Sunday in this country. Millions more find inspiration and hope in the person, the story, and the teachings of Jesus Christ. The Christian community is a mainstream community. They watch the NFL, they watch The Voice, they buy tickets to Star Wars and go to Beyonce concerts. It's a community that loves Jesus, loves their country. It's a very cool community made up of millions of young believers, many who have tattoos, earrings, they ride skateboards, they surf, they tweet, they're entrepreneurs, and are a vibrant part of the new American economy. It's a very broad audience indeed. And it's a community that we are really proud to be a part of, and a community that has covered us in prayer, as to our own surprise, we almost became the international spokespeople for the Bible.
Yeah, the making of the Bible series was covered in prayer every step of the way. I can still remember sitting in the Moroccan desert under the shade of a rock and reading scripture with actors, or praying together with them as they prepared for a scene. When we were getting ready to shoot the crucifixion scene, I sent out an email requesting that prayers would be sent ahead of us to clear the way. There were emotional and spiritual challenges of filming such a scene, as well as the physical challenge because we had to hang an actor on a cross. And that day the winds were very high and the sun was scorching, and we prayed for safety and that God would use the series to open hearts to him. And we had a man on the set whose job it was to wrangle snakes and scorpions from each of the locations. And normally he found about 1 or 2 snakes a day. But on the morning of the crucifixion, He removed 48 snakes from around the hillside of Golgotha, and we believe that was the power of prayer at work, and the symbolism of the snake wasn't lost on any of us. And we also prayed as we cast the series. We were only a few months away from beginning filming, and we still hadn't cast the most important role of Jesus. And so I sent out an email to all my contacts with the header, "Looking for Jesus." And we asked in prayer that the right actor would show up. And through a series of remarkable coincidences, we came across Portuguese actor Diogo Morgado. And as he walked up our garden path to meet us for the first time, I turned to Mark and I said, "There he is. There's our Jesus." And he was an answer to a prayer. And his touching and affecting performance as Jesus helped to inspire millions of people around the world.
Yes. 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 That role of Jesus was so important, and it was last-minute casting, and it was the answer to a prayer. And the incredible Hispanic actor, Diogo Morgado, beautifully portrayed, as you saw on the screen, Jesus in the Bible series, and everyone in the whole country was talking about this Hispanic actor. And it reminds me of a great story. There were a couple of old men who were Christians. They lived next door to each other. One was an old black man, one was an old white man. They loved each other and did everything together. In fact, they only ever had one disagreement. The old black man was sure Jesus was black, and the old white man was just as sure that Jesus was a white man. Neither could ever convince the other. One day, these great friends died together in a car accident. On their way up to heaven, the old black man said, "Buddy, you're about to find out I was right all along. Jesus is a black man." And the old white man said, "I'm sorry you're going to have to find out this way, because when we meet him, you're going to see that Jesus is in fact a white man." They got there in great anticipation, and Jesus walked out to meet them, and he smiled at them and said, "Buenos dias."
Well, you know, I suppose when you think about it, Jesus could have been Irish. He lived at home until he was 30. He never got married, and his mother thought he was God. You know, as a husband and wife producer team, not only do we get to do what we love to do, but we get to do it together, and we have fun. You can tell we have fun. But we also know that being in media comes with responsibility. For to those whom much is given, much is expected. And we are so pleased that our step of faith has reinvigorated faith and family programming in this country, and has hopefully inspired a whole new generation of artists to invest their talent in content that inspires and unifies. This is why we named the company that produced the Bible Lightworkers Media, because we have always believed that it is far more effective to light a candle than to curse the darkness. Let me say that again. We believe it is far more effective to light a candle than to curse the darkness. And that's what we try to do, to light as many candles as we can. We just keep lighting candles in this often very dark, hostile, and hurting world.
You know, it's very easy to divide people, and it's very difficult to bring people together. Did you know that what we learned making the Bible, that just among Christians alone, there are over 30,000 denominations? I mean, think about that. It's crazy, right? And many have argued about their views of Jesus for thousands of years. So for us, working across the Protestant and Catholic community, working very detailed way with the Jewish community, it was very, very challenging to make everybody happy as we told the story of the Bible. But we worked very, very hard, and as many people here advised us so closely. And we learned to become bridge builders. And bridge building became our mission.
Yeah, building bridges has become so much of our mission. And I know the power of a bridge from my own life's journey growing up in war-torn Northern Ireland. But today, if you go to Derry, you'll find something new there. Peace has been restored there. And there's now a walking bridge built across the River Foyle. And it's aptly called the Peace Bridge. And it stands in defiance of all that once divided us, our very own bridge over troubled water. Protestant and Catholic children now play together. But more than that, the old hurts are healing. The leaders in Northern Ireland finally sat down and talked to each other and listened to each other and started to work things out together. We are at a time in the world's history where there is so much pain and fear and division everywhere. And these divisions show up in race and in religion and in politics. The dividing lines are easy to find. The bridges to peace are harder to build. May we all find our dividing lines and work until we've built our own bridges of peace across them. On this day of the National Prayer Breakfast, we pray that with God's help, our world can heal some of the hurts that wound us and the confusion that divides us. But it begins with us. And perhaps a good place to start is to simply see the image of God in the eyes of everyone you meet. As Jesus said, "By this everyone will know that you follow me, that you love one another. For in this spirit is the power of true faith, that we learn to love each other." We know that television and film can be powerful ways of bringing inspiration and hope through emotional stories that open your heart. As my dear friend, the late Maya Angelou said, "People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel." Thank you so much. Almost 10 years.
Wasn't that good? So you kind of got the whole picture. Relationship with Jesus, bridge building. That was good. You can go online and watch the whole thing if you want to. God wants to be our best friend. That's the invitation. We think following Jesus, or we just play it safe. Yep, I know Jesus, but I do need all of this stuff to make me happy. And Jesus says, all you need is me. All you need is me. To know him, to live with him, to live for him. So let me just quickly give you this morning some suggestions on how to be best friends with God. So would you write these down real quick? And then we're going to share together in the Lord's Supper, in communion. Number one, if we're going to be best friends with God, is to make knowing God my number one priority. To make knowing God my number one priority. Now, I'm really pushing against the culture because I know our challenges in this day. But God invites us to be close to him if we will only make him the priority. How many here want to be happy in life? How many would like to experience more joy in your life? The path to our joy, fulfillment, and happiness is the closer we get to Jesus, the more we will be fulfilled and happy and filled with joy. That's just, in Psalms it says it this way, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you what? The desires of your heart. Now some of you go, oh man, I'm going for that because I know what I desire. No, you're not manipulating God. It's when you delight yourself in the Lord, then what you desire is what he desires. Does that make sense? Some people say, oh, you're a Christian. That means you don't get to do this, you don't get to do that. You know, when we walk with Jesus, we become aware of the things we don't need nor want to do anymore. You don't need to get drunk anymore. Like, I don't want to get drunk anymore. Never got drunk the first time. So, people say, that's kind of like me telling Deanna she's restricting my life. I have to come home every night. Do I really? No. When we delight in God, it's not a matter of, now I've got to do this. It's a matter of discovering what life is all about. It says in Psalm 16, it says, in his presence is joy evermore. So if you want to have greater fulfillment and joy in your life, then draw close and make a relationship with God your number one priority. Now, how many here are leading pretty busy lives? How many know you have to be intent? There's 3 of us in the room. How many know you have to be intentional about what you want to make as a priority in your life? A priority is something that's determined by how hard it is to knock it out of your schedule. If people say this is a priority, like if right now, for me, it's a priority to watch the Golden State Warriors because they're winning all the time. Now, if they were losing all the time, it wouldn't be a priority. But don't bump me off the game, you know. Good thing they just don't play on Sunday mornings because you wouldn't see me. I'm just kidding. But I am making a point. And that is, whatever it is that we stick in our schedule that is non-negotiable, that's what our priority is. So my question to you is, would you like to have God be best friends with you? Then he says, I want to be your best friend. Make it a priority to know me. Seek first to know me. And this amazing verse, we're getting there. Paul said this, everything else is worthless. Everybody say worthless. Do not say that to your wife if you're sitting next to her, though. Everything else is worthless compared with what? The priceless gain of knowing Christ Jesus. How many are glad you're not going to go to hell when you die? How many are glad you get to go to heaven? How many think the most thing you'll be most excited about is you get to see Jesus face to face? That's what we're talking about. We're not just talking about getting by the proverbial skin of your teeth. I'm glad I'm going to make it in. Whoopee. You're not going to be very happy there because we're all going to be focused on our relationship with Jesus and one another. I've discarded everything else, counting it all garbage so that I may know Christ. You will find me when you seek me with all your heart. Question. Are you seeking God? Now, when you come together on a Sunday morning and Jesus or Danny or Doug, they're leading us in prayer, in those moments, are you seeking God? Or is it kind of like, I hope they get through this soon? What you want to do is let it be a place to invite you in and that you engage with God because where 2 or 3 are gathered together in his name, he's in our midst, and you call upon him while we're praying like that or we're singing the songs together. You engage. I love to watch the facial countenance, the expressions of people while we're worshiping. I also like to watch you while I'm speaking. And sometimes I feel like yawning, but I don't do it because you're watching me, even though you're yawning when I'm talking to you. That's all right. Some people even sleep. I say that's a good thing. It's a restful place to be on a Sunday morning, just catching up. You've been up too late the night before. Are you seeking God? Because the God of the universe, who is the creator God, who is the manly God, I'm saying this for the sake of us men. Come on. He is the God who invites you to know him. Some people have missed the most important thing in life. It says in Timothy, they do not know God. And we live way too below our invitation. God invites us into a vibrant relationship, and we live, I do too. I'm a pastor. I get caught up in all the pastoral things I do rather than in the relationship with God. So, how many here worry? Can I see your hand? If the person next to you worries a lot, just raise their hand for them. Would you do that? Put it up there. Go like this. How do you know whether you're connected to God, whether you're focused on the relationship with God? How do you know whether that's going well? It says those who do not know God are worrying. So you can always tell when you're disconnected because the more you worry, the less you're connected to God. Does that make sense? I think I put that, I hope that got through. People who don't know God are always worrying. So for all of you that are watching us who identify with Jesus and you catch us worrying, I am so sorry, because we identify with Jesus, but we're practical atheists. Because we're worrying. As though our worry is going to help. Not doing a thing, but just making us sick. And he says, bring all your worries to me. So make knowing God my number one priority. How many here in this room today would say, I want to, I will, I choose to make knowing God the priority of my life? That's why we gather on Sunday mornings. Now, don't be too bold or courageous because I don't want to get you out on the limb. But that's where we find life, and life abundantly. Number 2, slow down and be quiet. I said that in a mild form. If I said it in the vernacular, I'd say slow down and shut up. Some of you, it may be turning off the earphones in the car while you're someplace. You've got to slow it down because you can't hear. In fact, your family members, how many have family? I love this. People have their phones and they have their iPads, and I love sitting in a meeting with people and we're trying to talk while everybody else is still texting on their phones and looking on their how many go to meetings like that? How many sit with people? Not at your dinner table, I hope, or wherever you have a meal together. But we have a hard time slowing it down and just, by the way, if you want to know God, you just need to spend a lot of time to be quiet. Be still and know that God is God. Friendship with the Lord is reserved for those who reverence Him. With them, He shares the secrets of His promises. So here's a little tip from Jesus, just very calmly. Here it says this. When you come before God, stop. How many this day would say, I purpose daily to come before God, just me and Him? I purpose that I will come before God. I'll put off all the other stuff. I'll turn it all off. I'll sit and be still. I'll listen. I'll talk to God. I will purpose that daily I will come before God. And he says, don't turn it into a theatrical production. Just find a quiet, secluded place so you won't be tempted to role play before God. Just be there simply and honestly as you can manage, and the focus will shift from you to God, and you will begin to sense His grace. Slow down and be quiet. Turn to the person next to you and say, slow down and be quiet. Number 3, if I'm going to be best friends with God, I got to decide whose friendship I really want. Decide whose friendship I want most. Anybody here besides the front row, what is the current record of the Golden State Warriors in this season? What is it? There we go. Okay, we got it. See? Now, there's nothing wrong with knowing that, but the question is, how much do we know of other things that are far more important? So choose whose friendship you want most. You should know that loving the world is the same as hating God. Anyone who wants to be a friend of the world becomes an enemy of God. And our focus is on being a friend of God. So, question, what does that mean that they love the world? I thought Jesus said, I thought it was said of Jesus, God so loved the world. So there's a world and the world. What's the difference? The world, don't love the world, is the value systems of the world. Don't love the sin you love in the world. Don't love the evil. Don't love, and by the way, most of life is not bad. It's good taken too far. So don't love the systems, don't love the possessions, don't love the position, don't love the prestige, don't love the power, don't love the money, don't love, you get it? Don't love the, yeah. The world offers only a craving for physical pleasure, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but are from this world. Can I just tell you something? Friends value what friends value. So, if you're close to God, you will value what He values. Does that make sense? Yes. All right. Here we go. Relationships are what God values. Relationships are more important than things. That makes it really difficult because sometimes that thing is my pride. Relationships are more important than my pride. But my pride is really sticking it to me. Oh, man. Come on, Smith, your name is, you need to go talk to that person. I'm not going to go talk to that person because I'd have to be humble. I can't. And do anybody get stuck on your pride sometimes? Yeah. Point at the person that does. Go ahead. Yeah. You get stuck on. Listen, if you're a human being, you sometimes get stuck on your own pride. And relationships are more important than my pride. Problem is, we love things and we tolerate people instead of loving people and just bringing things along to help us love people. All right, keep going. Number 4, how I'm going to have a best friend with Jesus. Maintain a constant conversation with the Lord. A constant conversation with the Lord. Pray all the time. Pray all the time. How many here text pretty good? How many are good at texting, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest? How many are pretty good at that? How many are texting even right now as I'm talking? You maintain a constant conversation with whoever will text you back. You know, you're sitting there, people are texting you now, and it's not like, I can't wait. Okay, let's go. Let me ask you a question. Would your friendship with Jesus be stronger if you prayed as good as you text? Did you follow that? Yeah. If you're good at texting, how about good at texting God? Talking to Him, expressing yourself to Him. Does that make sense? We want to be connected. If you want to be connected to the Lord, talk to Him. Write this down. I'm as close to God as I want to be. In the Amplified, Philippians 3:10 says, "My determined purpose is that I may know Him, that I might progressively become more deeply and intimately acquainted with Him, perceiving and recognizing and understanding the wonders of His person more strongly and more clearly." Last one. Be friends with Jesus. Trust God in your pain and your problems. Trust God in your pain and your problems. Now, I talk to my acquaintances. I trust my friends. I talk to people that I'm just familiar with, but I trust my friends. And so when it comes to my problems, not to run because I have a problem, but when I have a problem, that I come to God and I trust Him to help me through. Because as we learn this song, He's never walked away from us. He's always walking with us. God knows exactly where you are. He's got you on the dial. He knows you inside and out. He knows what the problems are you're having. He knows the difficulties. He even knows the struggles you have with your faith. So trust God in your pain and your problems. Deanna, could you come to the piano? So, cast all your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will never let the righteous fall. For some of you came in today, and I want you to know God knew you were coming, and you are in trouble. You got struggles. You got pain. You got disappointments. What do? Here's the message for you. It says, I'll get you out of your trouble. Psalm 91. I'll get you out of your trouble and give you the best care if only you would get to know me and trust me. Some of you, you've been in trouble, you're having problems, you need to say, today I'm stepping up and saying, I'm going to trust Jesus with my problems. Here's the second invitation as we prepare. Now, men, because I happen to be a pastor and I happen to be male, I have a special interest in you. I am grateful you are here. It's amazing that you men would show up on a Sunday morning. And some of you go, well, it's not so amazing. She makes me come. But I'm just telling you, the most dynamic life you can live is when you partner up with the God who made you. And that you would focus on making that your priority, and everything else will get thrown in. But that we come together not going, I did my duty. I went to church Sunday morning. Now let's get on with real living. You're as close to God as you want to be. And He wants to be close with you. Do you think it's boring for Mark Burnett and Roma Downey when they do their work together? Are they like, yeah, I got to tolerate the work and we have to tolerate each other? Or do you go, man, we are a couple on a mission to knowing God together and serving His purposes in our generation? I'd say, so men, you can even do your work for God. That's your calling. But it's a relationship. So, for some of you, it's not just about being on the edge, fringe. Some of you just drift away. You've drifted away. Jeremiah said, if you return to me, I will restore you so you can continue to serve me. So, are you in trouble today? Draw close to Jesus. If you drifted away, draw close to Jesus. Thanks for joining with us today in our live streaming of our service and our message. We're grateful that you joined with us. And if we can serve in any way, we'd be glad to do that. Just check out our website. That'll get you connected in any way that you might like to. And that is greenvalleychurch.net. And we wish you the best and know that you really do matter to God. Have a great day.